Okay, so this is one of the last things I have to share with you about monopolies. And so I've got this graph here kind of covering up some information here. So price discrimination, how you'll see it sometimes come up on the test and its wording is they'll either call it first degree price discrimination, perfect price discrimination, and you're going to treat it all the same. And price discrimination, man, discrimination sounds bad, right? We don't want to discriminate against people, but yeah, up until a point. But price discrimination, you experience it and you don't really think too much of it. And discrimination means that you treat different people differently. And so when we have price discrimination, we treat people differently when it comes to the price they pay for products. And you may think, "What? No way, man! I go to the grocery store and everybody pays the same amount of price for milk. It's not like they charge Mr. Sutton who buys an insane amount of milk because he's got a 2-year-old. They don't charge him more than my grandmother who buys probably not that much milk. I don't know if she doesn't buy milk, but let's assume she doesn't. They can't discriminate about that. Well, here, let me show you some examples, and I think you'll see my point. So right here. So sure, like student tickets or senior citizen discounts. You know, you're getting the same product as a student when you go out to, I don't know, buy a movie ticket or whatever. You see the same movie, you sit in the same type of chair, but you pay a different price, a lower price than the rest of us, hardworking folks. So this is a discrimination of price here. So these are some examples where you see people charging a different price. And imagine if a firm like a monopoly could in fact do this. They could say, you know what, we're going to match up every single person with their willingness to buy our product. And we can charge exactly that price. Think about what happens here to consumer surplus. This is an important thing here. If you are willing to pay equals, let's say, $80, and the firm, in fact, charges $80, how much consumer surplus have you got here? That's a whole load of no consumer surplus, and I'm not moving this thing anywhere actually. You're getting no consumer surplus. Think about it even further. If you were willing to pay $70 and the firm could charge you $70, well, then you would still have consumer surplus of 0, because now the firm is willing to match up the price they charge to your willingness. So all of that consumer surplus ends up going where? If we could practice perfect price discrimination, it would turn into, all this consumer surplus would turn into producer surplus, which is what a perfectly price discriminating monopoly could do. They would charge right along this demand curve here. Boom. That would, but it would also do something else. It would change their profits here, or it would change their output to a more perhaps efficient level. They would work right out to this socially optimal point now, and because it's going to have some ramifications for their marginal revenue. So this is the idea here. Essentially, you can create greater output by being a perfectly price discriminating monopoly here. And does this make the consumer worse off? In some senses, yes, right? Like, you would much rather pay a lower price than your willingness. But at the same time, like, the consumers have this price in their head, that this is what they value the product at. So I'm not sure the answer is necessarily clear about whether it hurts the consumer. But this is the idea. Now, let's take a look here. at a problem. It's going to be the same graph. Nope, different graph. So look right here. This is going to stink because I'm going to have to scroll down a little bit. So don't ignore this problem right here. We don't want this one. We don't want this one. We haven't talked about elasticity yet because we're kind of working out of order. So don't worry about that. You can't answer this one yet. But down here, consumer surplus for this profit maximizing monopoly will be represented by what area? Can you find it? I'll scroll down so you can make sure you can see all the options. And I'll scroll up so you can see all the graph here. And I've got the answer as B. Because if you go to profit maximization, MC equals MR is here. I go up, find my price, which is C, okay, or P4. So C and P4 got to be in the answer. C and P4. The only one that even has C and P4 in the answer is B. But make up our triangle right here. Now, let me ask you this. What would be the area of consumer surplus if this were a perfectly price discriminating monopoly? What would it be, A, B, C, D, or E? The answer is none, because the answer would be 0. And this is one that they trick students on all the time. So it's a very, very tricky question. Okay? Also, how about this? What would be the deadweight loss? Can you find the deadweight loss for this profit maximizing monopoly? Like so. Oh, I've got to get my right there, because there's your allocatively efficient point. Also, I would add, let's now assume, if I ask you what's the deadweight loss for a perfectly price discriminating monopoly, what would be their deadweight loss? And it would be 0, because now you would produce out at this quantity here, whatever this is, and this is your allocatively or socially optimal level of output. So you would get no deadweight loss. This would be your most, this would be the equivalent of producing at equilibrium in your perfectly competitive marketplace. So there would be no deadweight loss. Final thing I'm going to show you here tonight. Just don't forget about these guys. If you're struggling, if you're not 100% sure, you need some extra help, you want some practice, whatever, refonomics.com. Here, I'll show you how to get to the site. So you just go refonomics.com, like so, and you got Monopoly right here. Number 2 is probably the one that I would go to. But let's say I like these ones because they're interactive, so you get to, they kind of ask you questions, you answer them, you look at graphs, they help you out. It's kind of like a little self-quiz here. But let's say you didn't necessarily understand price discrimination. They have boom, boom, boom. You don't need to know first, second, or second and third degree, but just first degree is perfectly fine. Okay? So they have all sorts of stuff to help you, and don't forget about that. I don't have a worksheet for you at this time for price discrimination. I do, but I don't know if I'm going to give it to you yet. If I do, there will be another video. All right. Good luck.